Before I get into today's video, remember to follow me on Twitter. So my Twitter, the link is in the description below. You can also find me. My handle is @JacksonKruger. Come over, say hi, and anyways, back to your regularly scheduled video. So a lot of people have talked about how good of an offseason the Chargers have had, and there's certainly been some moves I very much like and that I'm excited about seeing how they will really work out. But I really wanted to put it to the test and talk about, okay, how good has this offseason been? Really, they were a team that I've joked about on the podcast as the 2022 Super Bowl champion, Los Angeles Chargers. I almost said San Diego, Los Angeles Chargers, because of such a good situation that they're in with this star quarterback. But did they make the most out of all the cap space that they had? Well, let's talk about it. So what you're looking at here is every player that not every player that they signed, but the most important players that they signed. So you see the column on the left is their name. Then the next column over, that's $. That's the amount of money they're making in millions of dollars. So JC Jackson is making $16.5 million on average, which again, that's not exactly how it works because they're guaranteed money and stuff. Sometimes you can get out of a contract, but if everyone plays out their contract, that's how much they would make on average. And then finally, the column all the way over, that's their Pro Football Focus WAR, which is a pretty good stat to use. I'm a big fan of it, and so that's how kind of a good measurement to use. Again, not exact, but solid. So as you see at the top, JC Jackson getting paid a lot, but he's a good player. So this contract, you could argue it's not the best ratio in the world, but it's pretty close. And when you're getting that with one player, I'm usually a fan of it, especially when it's a position of need, which corner was for them. So like that one, Sebastian Joseph, maybe not so much, only, getting paid $8 million, and it's kind of according to them, basically last year he was just a little bit better than a replacement level player. Also, is it Sebastian Joseph or Sebastian Joseph Day? I always said Joseph Day, but then when I was Googling for research for this, it said Sebastian Joseph. So I think it's Joseph Day, but anyways, that's besides the point. Gerald Everett here, only getting $6 million and is a 0.16 WAR player, and also kind of a guy that they could use. Going over the middle and really having a good passing attack there was a bit of a weakness for the Chargers, so Everett could hopefully fill that void. Austin Johnson getting $7 million, and he did not make the Pro Football Focus top 200 free agents, so his WAR is not available here. And same thing with Khalil Mack, kind of, because Khalil Mack was traded, so he was never on that list. I don't know his WAR, but I was able to find a PFF projection of what his WAR should be, which is 0.25. Also, if you're unsure, WAR just stands for wins above replacements. So basically that means that Khalil Mack adds 0.25 wins above whoever they would have signed off the street to play that role. That might not sound like a lot, but really edge rusher isn't that valuable of a position. There's only a few guys that will really get you even half of a win. So 0.25 is actually still pretty good. But you look at this total, this means they're spending $58.8 million on average to get a little bit under a win on average, which is $62.6 million per win. Ideally, you would want that to be around $25 million per win. So if everyone does what they did last year and Khalil Mack does what you would, I think fairly project him to do next year, this doesn't mean that you've really knocked it out of the park, I would say. As for the players that they've lost, they actually have lost a decent amount of solid role players, right? Like Nwosu is an okay role player, Linval Joseph, and also worth mentioning, everyone other than Nwosu, the reason why there's an asterisk next to his name is because he's been signed. Everyone else, that's a projection of how much money they'll make in free agency, not an actual dollar figure. But guys like Chris Harris and Jared Cook, and even Ode Oboshi, had significant roles for this team, so they should be losing about 0.59 wins, which means that you're, instead of spending $26.8 million to get those guys, that would be $45.4 million per win. So not saying they should have made all these contracts, but, re-signing Chris Harris might be a good idea, I would say, even though he's not a star. Now, you don't have to do that, but if you don't do that, at least, maybe replace him with somebody might be the move. So what does this tell us? Well, I think for one thing, it's worth mentioning that, okay, yes, if you add all this together, it means they've only added about a third of a win. But the free agency period isn't over. There still are some pretty good free agents available. Maybe they'll add some more guys. Obviously, the draft is coming up. And so, quite frankly, adding a third of a win, that's better than a lot of other teams are going to do. So that's not the end of the world by any means to go out and add a third of a win. And I'm not trying to bash them and say, oh, they only added a third of a win. The reality is, you're a team who's competing for a Super Bowl right now, and you can afford to overpay a little bit on free agents because you have Justin Herbert, where, the way I typically use my model is that I kind of view this as, for the rookie contracts, they on average will get you about 2.9 wins for your rookie contracts. That's what the average team does. But Justin Herbert is making well over that by himself, and he's not getting paid a ton. So just because of that, the ratio changes, and you don't need to spend $25 million on each win to win a Super Bowl. You maybe can spend more than that. I'm not sure if you can spend $60 million per win, but that's where things get interesting and why it's okay to overpay a little bit. Like, for example, the J.C. Jackson move, I still like, even though, is that technically an overpay? Yeah, probably. It's probably a slight overpay, but it's a slight overpay for a really good player. So, and he could be even better. So I actually don't have an issue with that. And I'm not even sure if it's really an overpay, quite frankly. It's kind of maybe a fair deal, which fair deals don't really help your team. You need to have unfair deals in your favor, right? The Khalil Mack one, I'm just never going to be a fan of. I know everyone likes that move. I wasn't a huge fan of it. I never will be. We'll just disagree. It is what it is. But at the end of the day, I do think the Chargers are kind of in a position where they could probably still, I guess what I'll say about the Chargers is you're going to be good next year. You have Justin Herbert on a rookie deal. Don't basically think, okay, we're done here. You still need to nail the draft to really make things work. And even if that happens, are they going to be a championship team or are they going to be a playoff team? They should be a playoff team. They were a playoff caliber team last year. But again, it might be a win or two away. So where do you get those wins? Maybe you get lucky and you end up getting those wins anyways. They were unlucky last year. Maybe the pendulum will swing this year. I just don't know if that's what happens. But it's an interesting situation. And again, I don't hate the free agency period. Just think that maybe an overpay on a couple of guys. Did we have to give Austin Johnson $7 million? I don't know. You needed to improve the run defense. Maybe this will help, but they are going to be better. How much better, though? That's the question. But that's what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. What are your thoughts on all of this? Always love hearing from y'all. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.